introduction and description of the different activities that I do, I feel very fortunate to be able to travel doing this work. Traveling has been able to take me to different parts of the country I wouldn't otherwise get to go to. And I've had some very interesting conversations in some of these different places, specifically with my Uber drivers. A couple months ago, I was in Omaha, the University of Nebraska Medical Center. Fantastic. One of my Uber drivers said to me, "Oh, where are you from?" I said, "Oh, I'm Seattle." And she goes, "Oh no, Seattle? So ugly." I was like, "Oh, thank you." And then later that night, this is even better, I had a different Lyft driver, and we were chatting, and it was a great conversation. And at some point, very appropriately, he asked me, he's like, "So you're single?" And I was like, "Yeah." And he's like, "Wait, you're good looking, you're smart, you're single? What? Oh, I know. You must be mean." Yeah, that's it. Yeah, so, you found me out. So, but yesterday morning, on my way to the airport in Seattle, I got this great conversation with my Lyft driver, and we started talking about actually a lot of things, politics and the environment and healthy eating. We were talking about healthy eating, and I was kind of getting down on things. I'm like, oh, corporations, carbohydrates, the lobby, sugar, you know. And at some point he's like, "But you know what?" He's like, "I have hope." And I was like, "Oh, tell me why." He's like, "Things are changing because people are starting to speak up, and when everybody speaks up, things can change for the better." It's like, wow, early morning wisdom from your Uber driver. When all people speak up, things can change for the better. And I thought, how perfect and appropriate, because that's why you are all here today, is so that all people can speak up. And you are a very critical, important part of that, speaking up, not just for yourselves, but for all the people that you work with, your communities, the people you represent. You're here to speak up for them. We know this is important because when all people speak up, things can change for the better, but too often, people are not allowed to speak up. And we see this imbalance everywhere. Right? We see it in the media. Why is the media covering the Kardashians instead of the water crisis in Flint, you know, something like that? Or we see it in these crazy videos of congressional leaders in Washington where different legislators are out shouting their peers so that they can't be heard. But we also experience this personally in our own meetings, in our own conferences, maybe even in our own families, our partnerships, our workplaces, where some voices dominate the conversations and others are not heard. Why is this the case? Now, sometimes you might say, you know, I'm just born this way, I'm kind of a quiet person, and those people were born loud and obnoxious, and there's nothing I can do about it. And to some extent, there's some truth to that. Like, we're all born with a certain nature, a certain voice. But there's a lot that we have learned or perhaps unlearned in our existence. And I firmly believe that we can learn to raise our voices in ways that perhaps we didn't know we could. I believe this is true because I learned. I want you to meet for a second. Imagine yourself a photo of me. I know I'm standing here, but I want you to meet me as I was in high school. As a senior graduating from high school, I had so many bags. So real, yeah, no, this, lots of bags. My mom cut them for me, which she did until medical school. So that kid, that 18-year-old, was very sweet, and she was very creative. At home, I really wouldn't shut up. I had piano, grew up playing piano, and I love the show tunes, all the musicals. Anyone here a drama kid? Anyone? Woo woo! Shout out to the drama kids, right? I would just play piano and sing at the top of my lungs at home, all the show tunes from all the musicals, and I would make up songs as well. Songs, poems, stories. I was actually pretty creative at home. But this facet of my personality, being a creative artist, if you will, although I wouldn't call myself that at the time, was balanced or not balanced with this other part of me. And that other very strong part of my character was that of a perfectionist. Very intense perfectionist. I believed that my primary goal in life was to do everything right. Was to be the good girl By all the outside standards of the world, I was to achieve, and I expected myself to be able to achieve any challenge that was laid out for me. You say jump, and I say, okay. Right? I will do that. I will jump so high. I'm not going to get an A. I'm going to strive for the A+. That stuff's real. And some of it's your dagger parents, and some of it's you. You know, I internalized that, and I drove myself. At some point in middle school, I was recopying my homework because my handwriting wasn't neat enough. And my middle school teacher snatched the paper away from me. He was like, stop. And I'm like, oh, don't take it away from me. He was trying to teach him a lesson, which I didn't get until decades later. Mostly for these like intervening decades. I was like, why did you do that? So, middle school. But it was perfectionism versus creativity. But this was a war that perfectionism was winning. Because my standards were so high about how good I thought I was supposed to be, the creative part of me became very hesitant. I was afraid to sing or speak or say my voice out in public because I was afraid it wasn't good enough. Just from the drama kid perspective, there were people in my school who were very, very talented, people who went on to sing professionally on Broadway, in the opera, and we were in shows together. And so I became the quiet one. I'm good at harmony, I'm good at backup, but we really can't hear you past the third row. And I internalized that, and I actually started singing quieter and quieter. When I got to college, as much as I dreamed for all my childhood years of being in a college a cappella group, I mean, it's a thing, and in musicals, see, someone out here was in an a cappella group, okay? Yeah, see, yep, see them there. I dreamed of doing that. I listened as such a dork. As a high school student, I'm listening to college a cappella group tapes. All I could think about was, that's what I want to do when I get there. I didn't even try out. I didn't show up. I removed myself because I didn't believe I was good enough. I had internalized this perfectionism standard that was so high that I couldn't even myself live up to it. So I just sat back. And I sang in choir and learned to be even more blendy, so I wouldn't stick out. Let me look at my notes. Yes. It wasn't just my literal voice that was getting softer, but it was my identity as well. I became more and more hesitant to have an opinion because I was afraid my opinion wasn't going to be cool enough or good enough or the right answer. This only amplified the more accomplished I appeared to be. And I got to Stanford, wow, that's cool. And then from there, I got into UCSF for medical school. So the resume is looking really good. People are like, oh wow, that's so amazing, you got into UCSF. And I'm like, but I didn't get into Stanford for med school or Harvard. They're like, oh wow, who cares, it's so great. But inside, I felt like I was a mistake. Did they not notice that I cried during my med school interview? Like, how did I get in? Well, I guess I'm here now, so I'm going to keep on going. But during medical school, I happened to fall in with a group of friends who were incredibly smart. 2 out of my friends, my best friends, on step 1, and this is like old school, like you sit down and take it on paper. Anyone? Yeah, you're like, yep, remember that? 2 of my friends were in the 99th percentile on step 1. Is that possible? It is, because I saw their things. I barely passed. And I was like, I'm just gonna, bless you, Captain. I'm just gonna hold my papers out here so no one sees. And it started seeping in, not just into the sense of like, maybe I don't deserve to be in med school. Maybe I don't even deserve these friends. Right? That's twisted, but that's what it became. I was afraid that at some point they were gonna realize what a dork I really was and how dumb I was, and I was masquerading, it was this facade, that I was just an imposter. I didn't deserve my friendships, my opinions, or any of my achievements. But I kept that to myself because who thinks that kind of crazy thought? Me. I kept that quiet, but the accomplishments kept coming in because I was still driven by perfectionism. So by the time I finished residency, wow, I had a checklist. I was doing all the things you're supposed to do. I got my first job out of residency. Woohoo, a real job. Or with a real income. And the job was cool. It was like this fancy medical startup job. Like, this is pretty great. I'm gonna buy a house because the market had just crashed. I'm gonna buy a house. I was like, I'm watching it now. The house is on a hill, it's got a view. So I got a new job, and I got a cool house, and I bought a car, replaced my 12-year-old car. I got a dog. Yeah, two dogs. I got a hot young boyfriend. Yeah. I don't have him anymore. But I sold the dog. Dogs are better. On the outside, things are pretty great. But on the inside, things had never been worse. Because I was trying to handle all of that as though it was easy. Because I firmly believed that to be perfect was to admit that you had no flaws, that you could take care of everything on your own. I got it together. So trying to juggle all these big fancy things, the inside I was like, this is really hard work, and I'm not perfect. It was eroding my soul. To the point where I was even unable to state my own opinion because I was so afraid anything I did or said would be wrong. It got to the point where if someone asked me what my favorite color was, I couldn't answer because I was afraid that the color that I chose would not be good enough, that it would be the wrong color. Who cares? But I did. That's how paralyzed I was. You can only live like that for so long before things start to crumble. And they did. Well, first that boy dumped me. Brr. Bye. But it was one of those things where the breakup lasted like twice as long as the relationship itself. So it was pretty brutal. So that left me feeling kind of old, right? Because this guy was 10 years younger, and so I was like, oh, I'm old and washed up. So that didn't feel good. And then the job, that didn't end well. I'll say those details when I'm on the stage. That didn't end well, and that didn't feel good either. And then my dog got cancer. Oh, baby. And I was like, oh, this is so hard and so stressful, and I love this creature so much. How do I handle this all myself? And then I got cancer. I was diagnosed with vulvar intraepithelial neoplasia. I got the results on the phone and I was like, what? I had to go look it up because I was like, isn't that an old person thing? Which made me feel older because I already felt old because the young guy had dumped me. And then I just felt dirty because this was a body part that felt shameful. And then I started just spiraling in on myself to say, oh my gosh, I am so not perfect. I'm not perfect in the worst way possible. I don't even have like a cool cancer that has a marathon attached to it or a 3-day walk. Not even a 1-day walk. Like I have like nobody talks about that. I mean, no one talks about her vulva even if it doesn't have cancer. So, there's no vulva monologues. Maybe this is one. No one was clapping for me at the time. Like, I just felt dirty and ashamed. To make matters worse, my perfectionism kicked in even harder and said, wow, Belinda, you can't even do cancer right. Because the cancer you have, it's only, VIN3? It's not gonna kill you. It's not brain cancer. It's not debilitating. So what? They just whack it off and you'll be fine. Why are you so upset? I told myself that I was making a big deal out of nothing because I had fake cancer. That reaction you just had, that's what my therapist said too. Right, oh girlfriend, like you have sunk so far. That's how bad it was. That's how bad my perfectionism was. That's how diminished my voice was, is that I had no belief in myself. And so when I came home that day and I collapsed in tears, first I called that ex, that was a bad idea. But then after I got over that bad decision, I sunk down the wall sitting next to my front door and I didn't know what to do. I felt like giving up. Because everything I'd ever believed that was flawed about myself was true. And all the accomplishments felt like a facade. And it was that moment that improv saved me. What? Did a bunch of clowns burst through your front door? No, that is not what happened. So I had started taking improv lessons just for fun. right after residency, because Lord knows you need hobbies after residency. And very much on a whim, I knew nothing about improv theater, even though I did love musicals as a kid. I didn't know what improv was. But I had been dating a different guy, who loved to watch reruns on TV. And one of those was Whose Line Was It Anyway? And we've seen that show. Yeah, it's hilarious. It's so fun. For those of you who haven't seen it, these 5 talented improvisers make up games and stories and songs totally on the spot, and it's just hilarious. And I thought they were geniuses, and I thought I need to do that for fun. And so I just walked into a random class that I picked, and it blew my mind. I thought, yes, it's fun, but I'm also learning something. There's actually skills here. It turns out that improv theater it actually started as an educational method. In 1920s in Chicago, a social worker named Neva Boyd developed the thought of using play to teach actually underprivileged children. And it grew from there into a performance method because people were like, oh, this is actually really entertaining. And it spread across the world, and it's come back to being used in education again. So I learned that. I learned that improv theater is not stand-up comedy. It's not sketch comedy. Those are both scripted. It's just improvised theater. You make it up on the spot. And the reason it works like magic when you watch these shows is because they're operating by a set of rules and using a set of skills that they have cultivated. Improv is not random. It's a cultivated skill set and intuition so that you can respond in the best possible way when you encounter unexpected situations. I recently heard it said, by my CrossFit coach, see, wisdom comes from everywhere, that he heard a saying that soldiers in battle don't rise to the occasion, they fall back on their last level of training. And I think of improv in that way. They're not just randomly making it up. They practice, and this is they're falling back in unexpected circumstances to their last level of training. So I loved improv theater. I loved what I was learning. And I would like to share some of those lessons with you today. And to do that, I want us to imagine that instead of this room being as large as it is, this room is actually small. And there's about 15 of us in that room. And there's no tables or chairs. It's just an open play space, if you will. And we meet for a couple hours every week for about 8 weeks, and that's how we learn these skills. And at the beginning of our class, we actually learn a set of agreements, a set of values that we're all going to adhere to. This is the stuff that I was learning in these classes. Here they are. And please repeat them after me. The first value that I learned was to say, I don't have to be amazing. Could you say that, please? I don't have to be amazing. What? Like that ran completely counter to everything I'd ever believed. But in this safe space of the room, all 15 of us, I don't have to be amazing. Okay, great. I don't have to be amazing because, value number 2, I know everything I need to know. Please say that. I know everything I need to know. I walked into this room knowing everything I needed. It doesn't matter if someone asks me a question and I don't know the answer because that's fine. I didn't have that information, but I do know what I do know, and that's enough. And because that's enough, value number 3, there's no mistakes, there's only gifts. Please repeat that. There's no mistakes, there's only gifts. That's right. Everything that happens was supposed to happen. And it's not an instance that should cause you shame or embarrassment. It's an opportunity to grow. It's a gift. Okay, I don't have to be amazing. I know everything I need to know. And there's no mistakes, there's only gifts. Because, number 4, we're here to take care of each other. Please repeat that. We're here to take care of each other. We're here to take care of each other. Oh, it's not about me. The focus isn't on me. No, don't worry about you. You're fine. You know everything you need to know. Make sure that other people know that they're enough too. Take care of them. And 5, when the inevitable mistakes occur, when the errors happen, we don't think of them as mistakes. We celebrate our failure. So please say that with me. Celebrate failure. Celebrate failure. Right. I was like, no way. No, You don't celebrate failure. But one of the first things I was taught by my instructor, Matt Smith, was that every time we make a mistake, we were to take what he called a failure bow. Or a circus bow. So think for yourself of a trapeze artist or a figure skater or even the waiter at the restaurant who breaks a glass and everybody in the restaurant hears it. Right? Now, one reaction, the instant reaction is everyone kind of looks around like, I heard the glass break, what's going to happen? And there's an opportunity for me like, oh, you're bad at your job, to be a little like shamey. But if that person's like, that was me, thank you very much, sometimes everyone in the audience, in the restaurant, applauds. Has everyone ever seen that? You're like, yeah, you got to class. And same with the figure skater. If they fall, they get back up and they keep on skating, and everyone claps instead of like stopping and being like, I screwed that up. Now I don't have the gold medal. Can you imagine if Nathan Chen had done that? He did not. He got up and kept on skating. So the failure bow is exactly that. Every time we made a mistake in class, we were to assume this position and put a big dumb grin on your face, because you can't do it like this, it's very unconvincing. You have to put a big grin on your face, and when you mess up, say, I messed up, and take a huge bow, and everyone would start clapping for you, and you'd clap for yourself every single time. And because we did it every single time, we started learning that that was our last level of training, became ingrained in us, such that I started realizing that when I was out in the rest of the world, even if I'm walking and I tripped on the sidewalk, instead of being like, no, it's not that, my new reaction was to trip on the sidewalk and be like, thank you, I'll be back tomorrow, and I didn't know that it was going to start showing up in my real life, but it did. And so, back to that moment where I'm sitting by the side of my front door in desperation, feeling like I was the most just flawed person in the world, and not knowing what to do. From deep within, I did not rise to the occasion, but I fell back on that last level of training. And very small, made a little tiny heap of a failure bow that took the form not of saying, oh, I screwed up, but it took the form of a phone call to a friend, Miranda, for those of you who know her, to say, I am not well, I need help. And she did not, unfortunately, burst into applause on the phone, titrated to the situation, but she was there. And she picked me up, and she helped me, and encouraged me to share with other people, because no one expects you to be able to do it alone. And so I did share, and people did show up to help. Let me tell you, improvisers make really good vulva jokes. And 99 vulvas walk into a bar, and I had friends come across the country to help me with my surgery and beyond. I would like to share that failure bow with you. And so if you would, because we're just in a small classroom, there's only 15 of us, would you all mind standing up? We're gonna do this together. And so in order to do the failure bow, we gotta stretch it out. This is good. You gotta, before you put your hands up, whether you're starting already, think of a mistake you might have made recently. Any mistake. Any mistake will do. You don't have to say it loud. But when we do this failure bow, when we yell, I messed up, think of it as you're purging that mistake from your soul. Right? So we're gonna take that stance, arms high up in the air, about this, yay, big dumb grin, yay, and on the count of 3, just shout to the sky, I messed up, or any other verb, you don't have a mic, no one can hear you, I messed up. Take a deep bow, and then immediately start clapping for each other and yourselves. So good? On the count of 3, oh wait, let's do it all together, so we're on the same page, fantastic. On the count of 3, 1, 2, 3, I messed up. Take a huge, huge bow, and just start clapping. One more time, because in that moment when I was sitting on the floor, my failure bow was not I messed up so much as I'm not perfect. And so I want us to do a failure bow that way. That's not really a failure bow, but a celebration of our imperfection. So this time, when you throw your hands up in the air, think of something that you don't like about yourself. Think about any kind of flaw. You don't have to say it loud. I'm gonna be like, I'm always late, right? I'm always late. I'll lie about myself, but there it is. And so on the count of 3, when you say, and this time instead of I messed up, say I'm not perfect, and clap for yourself, thinking about whatever that is in your mind. Sound good? I'm not perfect on the count of 3. Arms up in the air. You ready? 1, 2, 3. I'm not perfect. Take a big bow and clap for yourself. Please have a seat. Thank you. So, I got through that summer, and I got through that surgery, but it didn't get better after that. Because what happened was that after the surgery was over, I felt completely empty. So great, I told the whole world that I was not perfect. Now what? Well, who am I? Because everything I had built up to that decade of my life was built on the premise that I was somebody else, but I was not. And emotionally, I was bereft. That was the word that kept, the only word that I had in my mind. I felt bereft, I felt empty. And I couldn't go back to work. I just lay there on my bed. I had to call a friend to get me out of it. I felt naked. I wasn't naked, but I felt naked. You know, like the world could see how flawed I actually was. And without knowing what to do or who I was anymore, in the absence of a voice, I left. I called my boss and I said, I cannot come back to work on Monday. And bless his heart, he heard that and said, okay, take the time you need. So I left Seattle for 4 months. I stepped away from my job, put the car in storage, locked up my house. I gave my dog to my friends to take care of. I just left. I couch surfed. I went wherever my friends were. I did nothing. Nothing. I slept as much as I needed to, which is sometimes all day. I relieved myself from having to accomplish anything, achieve anything. No one knew who I was. I had no responsibilities, not like in a woohoo way, but just kind of in a lie there way. And I floated. I read stupid books like Twilight. I just emptied my brain. And around month 4, I went to Australia. I'd never been before. I went by myself. And I went so that I could learn to listen. Improv teaches you so many skills, the skills of life. I break them into 3 groups. And the first skill group is that of attunement. Attunement. To listen, to observe, to perceive. Now, in improv, we usually think about it in terms of listening to your scene partner. So if we're in a scene and you tell me that, like, hey, we're gonna go cut down the tree, you know, at Joe's place, I gotta be listening so that I'll be like, yes, what a large tree that is, right? Otherwise, I'm like, what did you say? You know, what's the scene about? And all the audience is like, you're terrible, you know. So you gotta learn to listen to other people, but you also need to learn to listen to yourself. And I realized that I had filled my space with the voices of other people telling me what I should think and what I needed to do, but I couldn't hear myself. And so, oh wow, look how far I made it. This is how old I am, in case you thought I was young. Okay, gotcha. What I learned in improv was the concept of presence. There's a woman named Patsy Rodenberg who does some work on presence. She has a book. And I was introduced to this through my theater. The concept of there being 3 circles of presence. The third circle, 3 concentric circles. The third circle is an outward energy-focused circle. Your attention is outward, you're looking around, your energy is focused, you occupy a lot of space. The first circle is completely inward-focused. You are closed off from the outside world. You try to occupy as little space as possible. And the second circle is a space of balance, where you're fully present and receptive to perceiving what is on the outside as well as what is on the inside. If you're too much on the third circle, you do what's called steamrolling. You just like mow over everybody in the room. You dominate the stage. No one gets a word in edgewise. If you're in the first circle, which is where I was, you say nothing on stage at all. You just stand there, say, that's great, but you contribute nothing. You need to be in the second circle of presence in order to hear yourself and perceive yourself. And I'd like for us to just play with that for a second so we can see what that feels like. If you could stand up again, and we're going to do this as a silent exercise, if you will. And give yourself the freedom to just kind of move about just near your table or other people there. And first, as you kind of mill about, I'd like you to just kind of acknowledge the other people around you as you turn and see them. Turn and see them. And please, if you will, take on a third circle attitude. So please, with your arms, see your shoulders and throw them back. Shoulders back. And give yourself an outward energy. And your gaze, as you look at other people, make it intense. Hold that gaze. I know it's awkward, right? But hold that gaze. Outward energy and a pushing energy. And you can make sure your stance is wide, right? You're occupying a lot of space and kind of wander around there a little bit, you know, with people. That's your third circle energy, looking far and wide, occupy that space, okay? And now switch to a first circle energy. First circle as in chin down, head down, bring your feet in close to each other, slop off to the side, and yet still kind of make furtive glances at your neighbors, because you still have to interact with them. But glance up and then glance away, because that's a first circle kind of energy. All right. And then finally occupy a second circle, if you will. So place your feet kind of under your shoulders, you're a little more balanced. And the shoulders, you can just bring them up and just like drop your shoulders, so they just kind of hang there in neutral. And in this moment, feel centered. And turn on your radar. And see if you can, you can turn and acknowledge people, no freeze, but hold their gaze in an appropriate way, right? and acknowledge yourself. Ask yourself, how am I feeling at this moment? Am I awkward? Am I tense? Don't walk your knees, just give yourself a bit of softness there. In that second circle, and make sure you've looked around at each other and feel like I sense you, I see you, and I see myself as well. Take a deep breath. Feel that presence there. And go ahead and take a seat. Thank you. The second circle. We have to wrap our heads around that one a little. Use the difference between this outward energy, almost fell off the stage, outward energy, and an involuted, I'm on my cell phone, don't bother me, which is what I was doing earlier this morning. First circle energy. The second circle is the space where we can most perceive both other people as well as yourself. And for many people, they say, it's a lot like mindfulness or meditation, for anyone who does that kind of work as well. But for me in improv, learning the second circle, I was already overly attuned to other people in my second circle because I was listening so hard for cues as to how to behave, but I had completely forgotten that I needed to listen to myself as well. And so when I was in Australia, I used this as a very large, extended improv exercise in listening. Because remember, I didn't even know what my favorite color was anymore. So I now stripped away everything that I thought was me. I'm in a foreign country. I know no one. It was an exercise, reminds me of my psychiatrist friend, who now lives in Australia, coincidentally, who had a patient who was afraid of dirt. So she'd take her to a public telephone, remember those? A public telephone, and say, please touch the phone. And the patient would be like, oh no. You're like, you have to touch the phone. Oh no. And so like little by little, it took many weeks, she'd learn to touch the phone, then hold the phone, and then be okay with the phone. And so this was my desensitization therapy. I'm standing on a street corner in Australia. I don't care, nobody's around, nobody knows me. And the question in my head was, should I turn left or right? But I had to deliberately let myself think, right, and then go. Because otherwise I would have been like, to my travel companion, which way do you think we should go? Which is the better way? What do you want to do? So something as simple as that. Should I sleep in this morning? Well, should you really sleep in? And you're all the way in another country, you paid all this money for your plane ticket, you should. Instead of listening to my inner voice, which was like, you're tired, sleep, girl. Right? I couldn't hear my own voice, and so Australia was this strange micro practice of trying to hear these simple decisions and hearing what my inner voice had to say. I know that sounds ridiculously mundane, but that's the state I was in. But it wasn't enough, because the first skill group is to attune, but it's not enough just to hear what your voice says, although that's important. You also have to like what you hear and accept it and embrace it. The second and then the third skill groups, after you attune, you have to affirm what you've heard, and then you need to advance. You need to move forward. It's not enough to stand on the street corner and be like, which way should I turn? Right. And then not go, right? Like you have to put your feet into it and then actually walk down that street. You have to put action into following your voice. If you have a great thought and idea, but you do not say it out loud, then your voice is not fully heard, right? That sounds obvious, yet it is not. In improv theater, some of you may have heard the expression, yes and. Has anyone heard that expression before? Yeah, some of you have. Let's get on the same page. Yes and is used in scene creation. Let's say Kevin and I are in a scene, and Kevin walks on stage, let's just say any object. What's a common object? Boring. Baseball. So Kevin walks on stage, he said, hey Belinda, let's play baseball. And I'm like, no, that's a terrible sport, it's boring. Well, that is not a yes and. That is not an affirmation at all. That was rude and mean, and I shut him down. If it's, he's crying. But if Kevin had said, hey Belinda, let's play baseball, and I say, yes, but I'm really sore, I worked out yesterday. So that's kind of half, I almost said something else, but like that's kind of half-baked, where I'm like, yeah, kind of we're playing baseball, but I don't really want to do it, so now we're wishy-washy. But I guess and is Kevin saying, hey Belinda, let's play baseball, and I'm saying, yes, I got a uniform made with our names on it, right? So yes, we're playing baseball, and I'm adding some new information. And Kevin's like, oh my God, it fits me just right, you know? I'm gonna model this, right? So it doesn't make any sense, but we're building something. We're building a scene together. Each thing that's said is an offer, and I affirm it, and I advance, I move on. But I got some feedback early on in my improv career, if you will, from my director after a show. Feedback after, improv shows too. It's like, Belinda, great job. They're still working on the formative feedback, but Belinda, great job. But you're really good at yes, but you don't really have much and. I didn't hear anything else that happened that day. I was like, oh my God, I have no and, I have no and. What does that mean? It means that I was saying yes to everybody, but I wasn't contributing anything new, and I realized I wasn't doing that because I wasn't affirming myself. I might have an idea, but I would stand off to the side of the stage or the back because I didn't feel like it was worth saying out loud, and just like I was in real life, it was carrying over to my improv work. So I had to learn to yes and myself. When I was in Australia, I had to decide what I wanted to do any given day, what city I wanted to visit, what I wanted to eat or order. Ordering off a menu was becoming difficult because I was like, well, my dining companion will judge me for ordering the Eggs Benedict 2 days in a row. Oh my God, but like that is the level of thought, so I had to practice that. And I had to live with the outcomes. So I ordered Eggs Benedict 2 days in a row. Now I feel sick, and that's gotta be okay. I am not perfect. Okay. I decided I wanted to go to an electronic dance music festival in Australia by myself to hear the DJ Cascade. Whatever, I mean, it was great. I got in a little shenanigans there. But I also got my wallet stolen at that festival. And I did not want to be like, oh, I messed up. I would be like, I messed up. But I couldn't let myself. I had to embrace that this was an okay outcome and keep on trusting to go with my impulse and my intuition. Listen, affirm it, and act. And by the end of the trip, the universe was kind enough to tell me that listening to your impulse will bring you a return. My wallet had been stolen. American Express was not everywhere I needed it to be. I struggled to get a replacement credit card. I got one, but then towards the end of the trip, I decided I was gonna buy an opal for my mom. Because I'm in Australia, they have opals here. It's where the opals come from. So I decided I was gonna go to this market. It's kind of like a farmer's market kind of thing with craft booths. I was gonna buy an opal for my mom. So I get there, there's this old guy. There's here this booth has stuffed kangaroos, and this has plastic boomerangs, and this has opals. Weird, but sure. And so I find this opal necklace for my mom, and I go to ring it up, and my credit card doesn't go through. And I recognize that I'm still an empty shell. I'm still just basically depressed, acute stress reaction, whatever. My therapist has opinions about this. But, I just couldn't handle. I'm now on the phone at a stall in a market with this old guy staring at me, and all the kangaroo booths are closing, and my credit card's not going through, and I'm just feeling terrible. And he says, just take the necklace. And I'm like, wait, what? He's like, just take it. Come back when you've got the payment. I know you will. So I did. I felt like I was stealing an opal. And 2 days later, when I got my credit card fixed, it was like the day I was leaving Australia, I came back, and he's like, oh, I knew you'd come back. Thanks. And so he rang it through. And before I left, he said, you'll be fine. The world is your oyster. He sent me on my way. It's this beautiful thing that happened because I got my wallet stolen. Because I've made stupid choices. I mean, why would you leave your bag open? Anyway, so it was by this extended practice, not in an improv classroom, but in a real life classroom, of learning to attune and affirm and advance. I would like for us to practice a little bit of that affirming and advancing part, because this is harder than we might actually think. Our instinct when we have an idea or a good thought is often to shut it down, even when it comes to us from the outside. So what is your typical reaction when someone gives you a compliment? I know for me, it's to be like, oh no, not me, no, shucks, no, nothing, right? So, Kevin and I were playing with this last night. But anyone here, shout out, just not necessarily to me, but any kind of compliment anyone's ever given you. Any compliment.
Nice skin.
You have nice skin? Yeah, right? Like, that's the thing. I have also been told that before. Sure, cool. Who knew anyone was looking? But someone says to you, you have nice skin. And I'll be like, oh no, I mean, my mom gave it to me. Like, I have nothing to do with it, right? Like, it's an instant, like, no. What's another compliment you might have heard?
You're smart.
You're so smart, right? You're so smart. I just went to school for a long time, right? Like, we just undersell ourselves real quick. Real quick. I don't know why we do. And that is basically a no. Like, I don't play baseball, or this is not baseball. It's not a yes and. What if instead of pooping on these compliments that are said to us, we yes anded them instead? And not in like a third circle way, like, that's right, I'm smart, kind of way, but in a second circle way. What if someone said to you, you have nice skin, and instead of saying no, or yeah, blah, 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 you said, thank you. I am grateful to have a nice skin. I spend less on moisturizer. Right? But it is not, diminishing. It's saying, yeah, I'm going to own that. I do have nice skin. And here's an extra thing, a new information about it. Or if someone says, you're really smart. Oh, sorry. And instead of saying like, oh, no, you just think so, or you should see my step 1 scores, instead you would say, thank you. I'm really grateful that I've gotten to learn so many things in my life. Okay. That wasn't third circle of like, you bet I'm smart, you step back, and it wasn't the first circle of like, oh no, not me, no, anyone but me, not me. It was simply owning that, affirming it, and advancing. I'd like us to do a real simple exercise. Silently using your second circle space, could you please, and I'm going to count to 5, and in those 5 seconds, please find yourself a partner. And if not a partner, then a group of 3. Partners are easier, it's better, so in 5. 1, 2, 3,
I'm Danielle.
4,
I'm on staff.
and 5. Great, thank you. Do anyone not have a partner or someone to chat with? See, you guys are taking care of each other already. Wonderful. See. Okay, I'd like us to practice this, the responding to a compliment in a way that accepts it and acknowledges it. I guess and if you will. So here's my finger people. I like my finger people. So you're going to take turns. So one person is going to say, I like your hair. And you are going to respond with, first go is you're going to poop on yourself. So I like your hair, and you say like, oh, the humidity, it's terrible. Okay, whatever. Right? And then it's a nice person's term. So this person will try and compliment. If you're a group of 3, just go around. But this person will say, you have the best smile. Like, oh no, my teeth are yellow. I don't know, but I'm just making stuff up, right? But deflect it, deny it. Say it's a thanks but. Okay, how about thanks but? So this person, you take turns. Compliment, thanks but. Sound good? Just do that, one switch each, and then I will ask for your attention again. Just give it a go, just try it out. We're going to have a very similar conversation again, a paired conversation again, but this time instead of saying thanks but, I'd like you to say thanks. And if it helps, because sometimes it's hard, it feels like a big leap. Thanks, and empty signs. You can try saying thanks. I appreciate you said that because thanks. I appreciate you said that because it forces your brain to think of a reason why you appreciate that. It's a little trick. So you just try that out. I appreciate you said that because. Saying that. I appreciate you said that because. Right? So just so that's an option for you. So hello, finger people. I love your hair. Thanks. I appreciate you said that because I spent a lot of time curling it this morning. Sure. What did I say before? You have a nice smile. Thanks. I appreciate you said that because I feel happy. I mean, it's as simple as that, right? Like this. So you don't have to be amazing. You know everything you need to know. You can't do this wrong. Everything you say is going to be a gift in this moment, so don't sweat it. But let's try this. Compliment. Thanks. I appreciate you said that because compliment. I appreciate you said that, Sandra. Just give it a go. Just, you know. All right. You know, it's really interesting that in the first exchange that you guys had, you guys are much more eager to leave it. But in this exchange, where you actually built upon each other's, where you yes-anded each other's compliments, the conversations seem to grow and continue more, as evidenced by the fact that there is still some conversations going on. It's wonderful. So, different feel, different response. How did it feel as the person saying thank you and accepting the compliment? How did that feel? Warm. Oh, you felt warm in saying that? Great. Also, yes, that is real. Any other things that you noticed or experienced?
Affirmative.
Oh, lovely. It helped you get rid of some of your insecurities. Saying it or hearing it, or both?
Hear it and then to think about why I was wrong about the insecurity I had before.
Wonderful. That you got to sit on that. So you heard a compliment and it touched on an insecurity for you. You force yourself to say, you know what, I'm going to own that and here's something good about it. Beautiful. You affirmed yourself. Yes. You felt energetic. That's great. So this act of affirming and advancing gave you energy. Your opinion felt valued. As the person giving the compliment, great. So as the person giving the compliment, your compliment wasn't rejected. It was accepted and built upon. Did other people have that experience as well? Thank you for sharing that. What a great glimpse into what that's like to affirm an idea that came from someone else, but that is about you. Well, I do have time. These counters are the best. I highly recommend them. It's counting on my time. I would like us to do one more exchange with your partners, and this is to try to generate something from within. Okay? And this first go round, I'd like you to simply go back and forth. I statements. Real simple. It could be I am, but I prefer for it to be, that's fine. I am, or say maybe I believe. I am alive. I am enjoying myself. I am hungry. I believe that this is the coolest conference I've ever been to. I think all puppies are angels. So it doesn't matter what you say. It could also, if you want to, be like, I am afraid of puppies. That's fine too, because some people are. Embrace that, affirm that. Simply go back and forth saying I statements. Don't think too hard about it. It's listen to that voice and simply say what is. And just, that's it. You don't have to respond. It's just I. Is that okay? Yeah, straightforward, just for a few seconds. Go for it. Thank you very much for doing that brief little exchange of saying to each other, just quite simply, I am. This is who I am. Now, some of you might have felt like, that was pretty easy, because some of you are more in touch with your inner voices, and that's comfortable for you to talk about yourself. But others of you may have not felt like that was easy. I've done this exercise with many physicians before, family physicians. I'm thinking specifically about someone at the wellness conference last year, who this was just a warm-up thing, but we stopped right there, because many people in the group were like, I have nothing to say. Right? I have no I statements. Oh, wow. Right? We actually have to work on this, being able to hear ourselves and say it out loud. And not only do we have to be brave about speaking our voice, we need to be able to receive and respect when other people speak their voice too. So we're yes-anding ourselves and we're yes-anding each other's as we are sharing our voice. So please go back to your pair, and in this exchange, I love puppies. I appreciate you said that because I would love to see your reaction when you meet a puppy. And then a new statement. I feel like this is the best conference I've ever been to. I appreciate you said that because I've never been to a conference before, and so now I know that the bar has been set real high. Right? So take your time, right? Think about it. Find the reason you appreciate it. Go hunting. There's a lot of gyrite in there. You'll find something. Okay? Does that make sense? So just go back and forth. Take turns. An I statement, I appreciate you said that. An I statement, I appreciate you said that. How did that feel? How did that feel? Either to say that out loud or to respond with a statement of appreciation. Any thoughts? So they had connected. I heard connected. Say awkward. Did someone say awkward? Yeah, totes. Yeah, it's yeah, it is, right? Because there's all this space, and then we have to fill it with ourselves. This is an exercise. This is derived from an improv exercise, where your challenge is to make your brain work in ways it hasn't been used to working in before, to listen to the silence and find a voice there, and then to be like, that is something worth saying, and now I'm going to say it out loud. When things are awkward, that's when you're learning something. It is awkward, for sure. It's a different space, and it's also a space of gratitude. Well, try it out for size. You can't have a whole conversation that goes like that. That would get awkward. But sometimes you need it. And there's sometimes, I would venture to say that we don't use this kind of approach as much as we should. So thanks for trying that example of attuning to yourself and to others, of affirming what it is you heard both on the inside and the outside, and then moving the conversation forward, advancing with what you heard. When last we saw Belinda, she was in Australia, leaving the pearl salesman, the opal salesman. I came back to Seattle. I picked up my car, I let air into the house. I went back to work, and they were like, take a call. I went back to work. Where have you been? And I picked up my dog. So many licks. My friend videotaped it. It went on for a while. Our baby. And now here's the question. I'm back in Seattle with all the trappings that I had worked so hard to create, all the titles, all the fancy stuff, that view in the house, and the blah, blah, blah. But now I'm publicly flawed. And maybe pubically flawed as well. Sorry. Okay, sorry. I debated on that one. Okay. But I'm back. Me and my vulva, we're here. Now who am I? What am I going to do? Can I continue the skills that I've practiced in an improv room and in a foreign country? Can I be that person here in my real life? And so I tried. I tried to listen more closely to my voice, and as I started noticing improv skills in my work as a doctor and as a teacher, I thought, my voice said, this should be in medical education. Affirm that, make it happen. Old me would have been like, you're not worthy. That's a dumb idea. New, determined me said, book up, Belinda. And I cold called Professor Katie Watson at Northwestern, who had already been teaching medical students improv. And she said, oh, cool, nice to meet you. I've been thinking of sharing my work, but I don't have time to put together a workshop. I will put together a workshop for you. Okay. Oh, wow, so this has traction. And things started picking up, and now we're in our 6th year of doing this workshop, and it's fun, and you should come. It's a good time. I even dared to start taking voice lessons again. And my voice teacher was like, this is really interesting. When you sing, you actually don't sound like yourself. Because I had physically cranked down, and I recorded it, and I go back and listen, and I was like, oh, that's very strange. I don't sound like myself at all. It's very formal and very controlled. I'm learning how to let go. And I said, oh, I practice at home. I have my own house, but I'm afraid to sing too loud because I might disturb the neighbors. And she looked at me and she's like, who cares? Disturb the neighbors. And I was like, oh, great idea. Yeah, who cares, right? So I'm still practicing and learning how to affirm myself in real life, my literal voice and my metaphorical one. I'm getting better at speaking my truth and hearing those impulses and acting on them. And if someone asks me now what my favorite color is, I will tell you it is pink. It is pink, and it's specifically that color between red and orange and pink. That one, sunsets and tulips, that one. That's it. And I'm not gonna apologize or care, right? It doesn't matter. It's taken me this many years and that much work to be able to tell you what my favorite color is. I hope you know what yours is. This is a note I wrote down because it's funny, I forget sometimes to tell this. My crotch is fine now. And once I was thinking, yay! Hooray! I forgot to say that once at the end of a talk, and people came up to me, they're like, are you okay? And I was like, oh my God, I'm so sorry. I forgot to close that loop. It's fine. And then, and 2 years ago, I had the opportunity to go back to Australia to visit my friend who moved down there. And on the train, on the way to my friend's house, I was like, I wonder if that guy's still there. Is he still there? I don't know if he's still there. Should I stop and see if he's there? Or maybe he'll think I'm crazy. But my impulse said, get off the train. And I got off the train, and I went to that market. It wasn't even open yet. It was like the shops are rolling up their curtains. And I saw him there, and I was like, oh my God, what am I doing here? This is crazy. This was 5 years ago. But I walked up to him, and I said, you may not remember me, but 5 years ago, you helped me. And he looked puzzled for a second, and then he started to cry. He's like, of course I remember you. I never forgot you. Ugh. So we started talking. My friend's like, where are you? I'm like, it's a long story. But we started talking, and he told me these amazing stories of his childhood, how he'd come to Australia from Austria, and how he loved tumbling river rocks because they look dirty, but then they turn beautiful when you take time to polish them. And I was like, you can't write this stuff. And then he told me that he had a daughter whose name was Belinda. Can you believe that? 2 L's. His daughter had the same name as me. And when we parted, he said, I know we'll be in touch. Be good. Still practicing following my impulses, I decided that this work was important enough to me in changing my life in so many incredible ways that I wanted to share that widely. And so I left my job and went to a place where I could be part-time so that I could travel, and that brings me here with this work speaking to you. You are here at NCCL, the best conference ever. You are here to tell your stories, your individual stories, and your collective voice as the NCCL. You are the heart and the soul of the AAFP. The AAFP is large. There's a lot of voices. Sometimes it feels like they're in the third circle, and they are just taking up a lot of space. It is up to you to make your voices heard, because conversations they're not conversations if not every voice is heard. And so it is upon each and every one of you to find your second circle, to hear your voice, affirm what you hear, and then share it out loud. We can't control other people's actions as much as we wish we could sometimes. And this is not a talk on how to tell third circle people to shut up and sit down, because we can't. That's actually beyond our control. But what we can do is adjust ourselves and learn skills to adapt to certain situations. We can, if we are first circle people, we can find our second circle so we can hear our voice and so that we can make room for others. And if you've sat through this whole thing being like, I'm not gonna say anything, that I am totally a third circle person, that's okay too, because we also need you, and you too need to find your second circle so that you can make room for other voices to be heard. It's not about right or wrong so much as it is about adaptability, and about expanding your range of listening skills, and about validating yourself. Because we surrender our voices if we don't know what they are, if can't look inside ourselves and speak our truths. Your intent is not to speak your voice so that you share your story at the expense of others, but as Aaron Burr said at the end of Hamilton, and if you stay around me long enough, I will quote all of Hamilton for you. The world is wide enough. The world is wide enough for all of our voices. It need not be either or, but it is your job here today to make sure that you do not let silence happen, that you speak up and you make your voices heard and known. Speaking up is not selfish. By shining your light, you are not replacing the light of others. You are not speaking for others so that they will remain silent. You are shining your light so that others will be inspired to share theirs. Marianne Williamson said that. When we shine our light, we give others permission to do the same. My Uber driver said, when all people speak, things can change for the better. So today, I challenge you to do this. Listen to your voice and the voice of others. Affirm what you hear, celebrate it, perfect or imperfect, and move forward to make change for the better. Thank you for letting me share my story. I look forward to hearing yours. Thank you.